In a world demanding your constant attention.
Reclaiming your mind and your body is the ultimate act of rebellion.
Welcome to Wholistic Wednesdays. I'm Amy.
And I'm Shelly.
Whether you've been with us since episode 1 or you're just finding us today, we're so glad you're here.
Yes, we are. We took a little break over the summer, and honestly, I think we needed it.
We really did.
I know I did. Not because we're out of ideas.
Oh, no. If anything, we came back with too many ideas.
Exactly. We realized something while we were away. The podcast has grown. We've grown. Our conversations have grown, and we wanted the show to grow with us.
So if you're listening today, you're going to notice a little bit of a different vibe. We're still talking about the nervous system, and we're still talking about healing, and we're still talking about subconscious programming, but we're also making room for conversations we've been having off the microphone for years.
Things like hypnosis, essential oils, and energy work, and nutrition, and crystals, the mind-body connection, research, Reiki, why certain rituals actually help us slow down, and how all of those things can work together.
Because healing isn't a one-size-fits-all. Sometimes healing looks like a breathing exercise, and sometimes it looks like therapy, and sometimes it's changing what you're eating. Sometimes it's a really good Reiki session, and sometimes it's one of my favorite things, sitting barefoot in your backyard for 10 minutes because your nervous system needs to remember what calm feels like.
Exactly. So this season is going to be less like a lecture and more like inviting you to sit down with us over coffee.
Or some good herbal tea. Which is honestly how these conversations usually happen between us anyway.
Exactly, except now everyone gets to join us.
Ooh, what fun. Hey, can I ask you something?
Always.
Did your summer go the way you thought it was going to?
Not even close. I had all these plans. I was going to reorganize everything, get ahead on projects, read more books, meal prep every Sunday, be that person.
Yeah, that Pinterest version of yourself.
Exactly. I had this vision that I was going to come into fall completely refreshed. Instead, life happened. There were family things and work, a little bit of travel in there, some unexpected responsibilities. And then I realized something. I kept saying I needed rest. But every time I finally had free time, I filled it with something productive.
I think so many people are going to relate to that because we say we want rest, but sometimes we're actually uncomfortable with it.
Yes, I remember one afternoon where I literally sat down with a book. I think I made it maybe 3 pages before I remembered 5 things I should be doing, like laundry, emails, cleaning out that drawer, returning a phone call. It was like my brain just couldn't even let me relax.
I had almost the opposite experience. When we first decided to take a break, I remember thinking, this is going to feel so amazing. And the first couple of days, it didn't. I felt so restless, and I kept reaching for my phone and checking numbers and wanting to answer messages. And I kept thinking, I should be creating something. And I caught myself wondering, who am I when we're not doing this podcast?
That's such a big question, isn't it? Because I don't think it's actually about productivity. I think it's about identity.
Exactly. And somewhere along the way, a lot of us started believing that our worth is connected somehow to something we're accomplishing. So when we stop, our nervous system doesn't interpret that as peace. Sometimes it interprets it as danger.
And I can see that. There's actually a biological reason for that too. When your body has been living in a high alert state for a long time, stress starts to feel really familiar. The brain begins to predict that pace. So it's not that you enjoy being stressed. It's just that your nervous system has adapted to that. So when things finally become quiet, your brain almost starts looking for the next problem to solve.
I see this in my clients all the time. Someone will tell me, I finally have everything I've been praying for. You know, sometimes it's a relationship or a new job or financial stability, and their kids are doing well. And then suddenly their anxiety gets louder. They're confused because they think, shouldn't I feel happier? But from an energetic perspective, The body's trying to make sense of this unfamiliar piece. If chaos has been your baseline for years, calm can actually feel foreign.
And that's such an important distinction for someone because people, you maybe, often assume something must be wrong with you if you can't relax, when sometimes nothing's wrong. Your nervous system is just simply adjusting to a different experience.
You know what kept coming into my mind over the summer?
What's that?
The image of a lake.
Hmm.
And no, it wasn't because I was sitting by one. I wish I was, but I wasn't. But because I kept thinking about how water settles. And when the wind finally stops, the surface doesn't become perfectly still immediately. It takes time. The ripples still keep moving, and eventually the water remembers its stillness. And I kept thinking, maybe that's us. Maybe we spent so long living with constant movement that we expect ourselves to become peaceful overnight. But healing doesn't really work like that. Sometimes the circumstances change before the nervous system ever catches up.
I love that visual because it's exactly what we see physiologically. The body isn't a light switch. It's not stressed 1 minute and then regulated the next. It's always gathering information, always asking one question: am I safe? And if your body has spent years answering, not really, it doesn't suddenly change its answer because you finally took a vacation. It learns through repetition and through consistency and through enough movements that prove to your body that, yes, this is safe now.
And I think this is why so many people become discouraged in healing. They'll
Yep.
say, I went on vacation and I still felt anxious, or I took time off and I couldn't enjoy it. And then they conclude that rest just doesn't work for them. But maybe the rest is working. Maybe the nervous system just needs more than one weekend a year, right? To believe
Yep.
it's allowed to soften. And I don't know about you, but I've noticed something in my own life and with my clients that almost seems backwards. Sometimes the moment life finally gets quiet, that's when everything starts to come up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. People expect peace to feel peaceful, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes peace feels actually uncomfortable.
Exactly. And then they think they're doing something wrong. I finally slowed down and now I'm emotional all the time. And I can't stop crying. I feel anxious. I can't sleep. They always assume that slowing down causes the problem.
When really, slowing down may just have created enough space to notice what was already there.
That's such a good way to put it. Because when you're constantly moving, like working, scrolling, taking care of everybody, running from one obligation to another, there's never room to hear yourself.
That's because your brain is completely occupied. Your attention is occupied. Your body is occupied. And it's almost like the nervous system says, we'll deal with this later. Then later finally shows up.
Later always shows up eventually.
It really does. I had a client recently who took her first vacation in years. She called me afterward and said, I don't understand. I thought I was supposed to come home refreshed. Instead, she came home exhausted. And I asked her one question: when was the last time you weren't responsible for something? There was this long silence, and she said, I honestly don't know. That told me everything.
Wow. Because for some people, responsibility becomes their identity. And if they're not solving a problem, they don't know who they are.
Exactly. And from a physiological standpoint, when you've lived in that heightened state for a long time, your brain actually gets very efficient at scanning for what's next or what shoe's going to drop. It isn't trying to make you miserable, it's trying to keep you prepared and safe, right? That's a survival strategy.
I think spirituality talks about the same thing, just in a different language. People will say they're waiting for the other shoe to drop, right?
Yep.
Or they'll say, I can't relax because something bad's going to happen. A lot of people aren't going to like to hear this, but that's not their intuition. That's just conditioning. And I think it's important because people confuse the two of these all the time.
I'm so glad you said that. Can we just stay there with that for a minute?
Absolutely.
Because I hear people say, my intuition told me, and sometimes maybe, but sometimes what they're calling intuition is actually anxiety. I know because I deal a lot with that. An anxious brain is really good at predicting worst case scenarios. Intuition doesn't usually scream, anxiety does.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I tell my clients that all the time. Intuition feels quiet. It feels steady. It doesn't usually come with panic attached to it. Fear is loud. The ego is loud. Trauma is loud. But intuition, at least in my experience, has always been incredibly calm. Even when it's telling me something I don't necessarily want to hear, it's still calm.
That's such an important distinction because if someone, possibly you, has spent years living in survival mode, learning the difference between fear and intuition takes practice.
Yeah, it really does. And honestly, I am still practicing. There are days when I catch myself wondering, is this my intuition or is this just because I haven't had enough sleep?
Or enough protein.
Right, you know me. But you know it's funny? You're always asking me if I've eaten. As long as we've known each other, you're always asking me if I've eaten.
Because sometimes that spiritual answer is have a snack.
Honestly, sometimes that's the most healing thing.
It really is. We're complicated beings. Sometimes we need a Reiki session, sometimes we need electrolytes, and sometimes we need both.
And that's why I love that we're doing this podcast this way now because healing isn't an either or, it's both. I don't have to choose between science and spirituality. I can appreciate research and still believe that sitting quietly with my crystals in my hand helps me become intentional. Look, the crystal isn't magically fixing my life. It's giving my mind something to anchor to. It's creating a ritual. And I truly believe that rituals matter.
They really do. Research actually supports rituals, not because lavender or a crystal automatically changes everything, but because repeated calming rituals tell your nervous system we're safe. The object becomes associated with regulation. It's the same reason a favorite blanket calms a child, or why certain songs instantly relax you. Your brain creates associations.
I love that because people sometimes think they have to defend either science or spirituality, and I don't. I think they're speaking different languages describing the exact same thing.
Exactly. Like science asks how, and spirituality asks why.
Ooh, I love that. Science explains the mechanisms, spirit gives it meaning. Speaking of rituals, can I show you something I've been using almost every morning lately? You're going to love it.
Please do.
Okay. So I've been carrying this little bottle around with me for the last few weeks.
I knew you were going to pull something out of your bag eventually.
It's it's one of your favorite essential oils and you're going to be so proud of me because it's frankincense.
Ooh, I love frankincense.
I know you do. And before anyone listening rolls their eyes and thinks, here we go. Listen, hear me out. I'm not saying this tiny bottle is magical. I'm saying it's become a cue. So every morning before I open my phone, before I answer my emails, before I start working, I put a drop in my hands and rub them together. I take 3 slow breaths and I ask myself one question. What kind of energy do I want to bring into today? And that's it. It's less about the oil and more about creating a pause.
And I love that because there's actually science behind what you're doing. Our brains love a routine. When we repeat the same calming behavior over and over again, the brain starts recognizing that sequence as a signal. Almost like, oh, this is the part where we slow down, whether it's making tea, lighting a candle, putting on a favorite song, or smelling the same essential oil every morning. You're teaching your nervous system a pattern.
Exactly. And I think sometimes we make healing feel so complicated. People think they need an hour-long morning routine, but you really don't. Sometimes you only need 90 seconds.
Or maybe 3 deep breaths before walking into work.
Ooh, yes. Or sitting in your car before you go inside the house after work.
I actually do that.
I knew you were going to say that.
Sometimes I'll just sit there, no music, no scrolling, no phone. I just let my body realize the workday is over. Otherwise, my nervous system carries work right into my evening.
That's such a good point. We transition physically all day long. We drive home, we walk through doors, we leave meetings, but emotionally, sometimes we never transition. We carry one environment straight into the next.
Exactly. And our bodies don't know what when like one chapter ended and the other began. So sometimes they need us to tell them.
Okay, I want to show you one more thing.
Okay. I was waiting for this. I was waiting for the crystals. There they are.
Of course you were. Okay, so I actually brought smoky quartz today. And no, I'm not carrying this because I think it's going to solve all my problems. I carry it because every time I touch it, it's a reminder for me to ground myself, to come back into my body, and to stop living entirely in my head. And it's become really symbolic for me.
And honestly, whether somebody believes crystals have energetic properties or simply sees them as meaningful reminders, the result can actually be somewhat similar. They're creating mindfulness and you're interrupting that autopilot. And that's incredibly valuable.
Exactly. Sometimes we get so caught up arguing about whether something works that we forget to ask, does it help me become more present? If the answer is yes, then it's worth exploring.
You know what I love about this conversation? Neither of us are trying to convince anyone
Nope. We're just sharing what we've already experienced.
because science asks us to stay curious.
And Spirit asks us to stay open.
Neither one requires certainty, and both invite exploration.
Exactly. Healing isn't about believing exactly what someone else believes. It's about discovering what genuinely helps you reconnect with yourself. And that may look completely different for each person.
So, before we wrap up today, can we do something really simple with everyone listening? Not a meditation, just a reset.
Ooh, absolutely. If you're driving, just listen. If you're somewhere comfortable, you might close your eyes. If not, just soften your gaze.
And take one slow breath in through your nose, and then just let it out a little slower than you breathed in. And again, just inhale and exhale. And now notice where your shoulders are. If they're up around your ears, just let them drop. Notice your jaw. If you're clenching it, soften it. And take one more slow breath. Now quietly ask yourself, what do I need today? Not what everyone else needs from you. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Just today. And pause for a moment and notice whatever comes up. No judging it, no fixing it, just listening.
Sometimes your nervous system doesn't need another productivity hack. Sometimes it just needs to know. Someone finally asked.
Yep.
I love our listener question today. Today's question came from Rachel in Arizona, and she asked, what's one thing both of you do every single day that helps your mental health? And I love this question, and mine is super easy. I step outside every morning, even if it's just for 2 minutes, with no phone, no agenda, just sunlight, fresh air, and my two wiener dogs. It reminds me that there's a world outside my to do list.
Mine is drinking water before coffee. I know, not nearly as exciting. But honestly, hydration changes so much. It changes your energy, it changes your mood, your focus. And sometimes we skip over the basics, looking for the complicated answers. And our bodies are saying, can we just start with water, please?
So this week's home play is really simple. Pick one ritual, not five, one. Maybe it's making tea without your phone. Maybe it's diffusing lavender before bed. Maybe it's sitting outside for 5 minutes. Maybe it's carrying a crystal that reminds you to breathe, one of my favorites. Maybe it's pausing before you walk into your house after work. Whatever you choose, practice it every day this week and notice how it feels. There's no right answer, just curiosity.
And if you do it, tell us. We would love to hear what ritual you're creating and how it's changing your day. So that's a wrap for this week. We hope your nervous system is feeling a little more regulated and your perspective a little more grounded.
Remember, healing isn't about doing more. Sometimes it's about creating enough space to hear what your mind, body, and spirit have been trying to tell you all along.
If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who could use a reminder that slowing down isn't falling behind.
Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Holistic_Wednesdays. That's holistic with a W. And if you have questions you'd like us to answer on the show, send them our way.
Until next Wednesday, honor your body.
Trust your intuition.
And keep shifting.
The views expressed on this podcast are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended as medical or psychological advice. While we use hypnotherapy techniques, please never listen to the visualization portion of this show while driving or operating heavy machinery. Always consult a healthcare professional for your specific needs.